a moderator today, and I'm also co-presenter with Dr. Boonman as the third group of people. We're on a tight time frame, but I'd like to introduce what we're doing. The first group of presenters, I think I have most of the names correct, honestly. We have Alysson Goodwin, Denise Crowley, and two graduate student presenters with them, Cristianna Cardinale and Francesca Storino. All of them are from here, Monmouth University. So with that, take it away, and I'll be over there if you run over.
Don't start my time until you can see it. I'm Alysson Goodwin, and I'm going to talk to you today about white coats. So the inaugural class of Monmouth University's Occupational Therapy Graduate Doctorate Program came to me and asked me if they could have a white coat ceremony. And a white coat ceremony signifies the transition from the classroom out into the clinical field. I asked them, why do you want a white coat ceremony? And they said, well, a lot of other schools have them, and we should have one too. My students were unanimous and passionate. And anytime my students are unanimous and passionate about an outcome, I want to give them the power to have that decision. But I have to keep in mind, it's not about the decision that they make, but it's that the decision is theirs to make, right? So then I took the white coat ceremony to the faculty, and the opinions were mixed, mostly negative. You see, occupational therapy is moving away from the medical model, and it's moving toward a different model of practice. And the white coat is the primary symbol associated with that medical model. So also the field of medicine that's most often associated with the white coat is also examining their use of the white coat in practice based on client-centeredness and client safety. What occupational therapy is moving more toward is a social model of health, where we look at the complex social network that keeps a person healthy and keeps a person well. So then you must be thinking, what does a white coat have to do with sustainability? When we think about sustainability, we think about succession planning. How do I give the opportunity for those not in power to practice all of those skills that they would need to be in power, so that we can have a sustainable organization that is mission-driven toward that societal goal of having a social model of practice? So then it comes to what we came up with, the project. Well, the project is very well explained using sustainability goal number 16. We needed to establish peace between those in power and those most affected by the decision being made. We need to establish justice in that the people most affected by the decision have the greatest power to make that decision. And then strong institutions, that we have this goal of having a social model of practice. We look at the research as to what's worked to make decisions like this. And then we present a project that incorporates all of the ideas of evidence-based practice to make sure that what we're actually doing is going to work for our students. So this is what we came up with. We had a research project, the White Coat Project. The pre-vote determined whether or not the students wanted to have a white coat ceremony. There was a pre-assessment of a trait that's associated with socially equitable policy making. Then we had an e-learning module, and the e-learning module outlined all of the social aspects of the use of the white coat in practice. And it went through it in a very metered pro-con sort of way, so that they got a balanced view on what the debate was really about. Then they had a post-assessment of that same trait and a post-vote to determine finally whether or not they would have the white coat ceremony. The results of the study showed that the students demonstrated a statistically significant increase in this trait associated with socially equitable policymaking. The particular aspect of the trait that showed the most improvement was critical motivation, meaning they understood a perceived inequity and felt strongly about doing something about it. The students also voted to hold the white coat ceremony. I'm going to pass it over to Denise Crowley, and she's going to talk to you about some of the other sustainability.
So we selected goal 3, which is to ensure healthy lives and promote the well-being of all ages. We address these three areas in the e-learning modules, providing information on all aspects of the white coat debate. The first was the symbol of professionalism. What is the public's perception of the white coat? The white coat phenomenon is a real thing, and there is an impact on one's health. People do experience adverse physiological responses when in the presence of someone wearing a white coat. However, it was also noted that some patients reported that they perceived practitioners as more knowledgeable, caring, approachable, and professional when wearing this healthcare attire. Is there a generational component linked to the white coat? The second idea surrounded by cross-contamination. What does the research say regarding infection control issues linked to healthcare providers' attire? Research has identified a cross-contamination effect when wearing this traditional healthcare uniform. The third component was the idea of the white coat being a symbol of discrimination and elitism. How can this symbol impact care, compliance, and the therapeutic relationship? Is there an innate hierarchy associated with the white coat? Our other goal was goal number 4, and this was to ensure inclusivity. So higher education aims to provide critical thinking learning experiences to our students in order for them to explore ideas, artifacts, experiences to really advance their understanding of information. While critical thinking promotes learning, it does fall short in eliciting an action plan. We chose the constructs of critical consciousness with the intent to promote changes in social patterns through egalitarianism, empowerment, and interactive methods. The three core components of critical consciousness include critical reflection, critical motivation, and critical action, all aligning with our project's objectives. The goal was for the students to vote on a department policy change following the completion of this learning experience. Multimedia artifacts were presented, which included podcasts, articles, visuals, and opinion pieces, all highlighting all aspects of the white coat debate. Following each module, the students were provided with reflection questions to consider. Our mode of delivery was using e-learning resources, which allowed for individualized, flexible, and increased accessibility for the learning of our students. E-learning also allows for multimedia use, various learning experiences in order to present the information. This allowed our students to gain a more comprehensive learning of this information. Now I'd like to introduce Francesca, Storino, and Cristianna Cardinale, who will discuss the student experience.
Hello. So as previously mentioned by Dr. Goodwin, this process was sparked by a conversation. White coats to us are a symbol of the transition from student to professional, and it's a clear illustration of the hard work and dedication that we put into this program. We have witnessed other doctorate of occupational therapy programs receive white coats, as well as other healthcare professionals that do not award a doctoral degree. Students were honored, and we wanted to be celebrated in the same way. We believe that if we invested the time and effort to push ourselves to attain the highest degree, then we should be rewarded in a way that demonstrates our academic and clinical achievements beyond master's and bachelor's degrees. So there are a variety of emotions that surrounded the white coat ceremony. At first, we were perplexed as to why our program was denied the opportunity to participate in a white coat ceremony to recognize the diligent work that we have put in. But soon, confusion gave way to curiosity. We were curious as to why the program made this decision, and we wanted to know what we could do to change the professors' opinions. We were curious why such a firm decision had been reached. We were just told no and not really given a straightforward reason for it. The Doctorate of Occupational Therapy students decided to ask the faculty why the decision for white coats were made without discussion. After that discussion and Dr. Goodwin's conversation with the faculty, she came back to us and proposed that we complete a research project to decide how to symbolize this transition. we experienced a range of emotions when we were given the research task. When we were first given the chance to choose for ourselves, we initially felt heard, trusted, and slightly shocked. However, the emotion of being displeased with the amount of labor required us to do the work to make the decision. Although we were grateful, we thought it was a lot of work and that we already had so much. We wanted to know if the effort was worthwhile given the results. Because we didn't yet comprehend the learning experience, we were feeling dissatisfied, but that all changed once we started the project. We felt the impact our decision would be making. Collaboration between students and professors was necessary throughout the process to ensure that our conclusion was made after careful consideration. The involvement of occupational therapy students in the decision-making process really emphasizes the importance our profession gives into taking all relevant aspects into consideration. We were valued as team members in the healthcare field, and our contributions were crucial in bringing change. Watching students work together and go the extra measure to collect data on the positives and negatives of a white coat ceremony was gratifying and encouraging. Students deserve to be recognized and celebrate their achievements in a way that they believe is most valuable. In conclusion, the decision of the white coat ceremony was a positive and exciting occasion for our program and profession. We ended this journey feeling empowered and exceptionally educated. Thank you.
We'll save all questions to the very end. Okay, so we can get to the other presentations. Thank you. Thanks, John. Okay. I would like to present.
No, I automatically close it again.
There is the name under their project. Faculty within the School of Education, what they've done are learning opportunities for both faculty members and teacher candidates. Our presenters are, I got it right. I'm off those names. Vecihi, Zambak.
Yes, that's me.
Kamei, Jiwon Kim, and Kathryn Lubniewski.
Okay, so hello everyone. So we're representing the International Education Committee from the School of Education. Okay, and then today we're going to talk about some learning opportunities or service opportunities that we're providing both for our faculty members as well as for our teacher candidates in the School of Education. So she already introduced us. I am Zambak, Assistant Professor of Math Education from CNI. I'm together with Kamei, Associate Professor from Special Education Department, Jiwon Kim, Associate Professor from the CNI 2, and finally Casey Lubniewski from Special Education to Associate Professor. Okay, so first some backgrounds about us. So as you can see, this is our picture in 2018, the first year that I joined the group, the School of Education. And then I learned at that time that International Education Committee was existing at that time for 1 year. So they're just active since 2017. And then we have different types of leadership for that committee. The first it was Kathy Wong, and then it was Jiwon Kim. After that one, for 2 years, Kamei was the chair, and the last 2 years I was the chair for that committee. Starting by fall, Dr. Kim will be again the chair, and then it will just face to Dr. Casey Lubniewski. For this committee, we define international education as something that enables people to become aware of and understand the interconnectedness existing between our own lives, our own culture, that in the systems of education that we see in all aspects that we can look around. Okay. So now I will talk more about the evolution of IC International Committee through the years.
So quick overview of what we've done within the School of Education might be helpful for you to maybe start something similar to this in your own school too. So as a new committee, our first focus was making us visible and providing something that is tangible and that will maybe indirectly enhance the global awareness and understanding. So we did the international potluck lunch event in 2019 and 2020. End of February, so right before the lockdown begins, we shared the food together. But we invited all faculty and staff members to bring food that represent their culture or family tradition or regional specialties. And we understand that just eating different food from different culture makes us all of a sudden be like globally aware. We know that it doesn't happen like that, but this is kind of like a good way to kind of open the door to that, differences. And many of international committee members are from different countries, so we kind of let this event, and many faculties brought the food from their family tradition. That was quite fun. And then hallway exhibition we did in 2019 and 2020. And 2019, many of international committee members from different countries created a poster like this that provide the overview of the education system of our country of origin, so that our students can learn from this poster too, and then put it in the hallway of Michaeline Hall. Then in 2020, the graduate students created posters for a course that Dr. Kim was teaching, comparing education systems in two different countries. And we printed out the poster and put it in a diesel stand and put it in the hallway. And I tried to find a picture of that, and I couldn't find, and I checked the minutes and realized that posters were put on the hall on March 8th. And from March 9th, we went to lockdown. So that poster was in an empty hallway for a long time. And then in 2021, we moved into the virtual poster events coincide with the School of Education scholarship event. And unfortunately, virtual events did not attract as many audience eyes as the physical hallway exhibition.
Okay.
Yeah, but there are some pros during the remote working, because all the meetings happened online. We could invite guest speakers and panelists from all over the world. The first one was Miss Tiara Denny. She's here. She's a trans woman from Zimbabwe, an LGBTQIA+ activist. And she came to the United States through President Obama's Young African Leaders Initiative, and she decided to stay in the United States after that because, according to her, the Zimbabwe government criminalized LGBTQIA+ individuals. So, quote, she said, the LGBTQIA+ individuals are not allowed to exist in Zimbabwe. So now she's working in Washington, D.C. as part of the Department of Mental Health and supporting Black immigrants, LGBTQIA individuals. And through the PD session, we discussed that how harmful that omit of information and support can be. It's not only the commit of discrimination, but the omit of information and support. And then we had a panel discussion in 2020 October. No, it was spring. Yeah. 2021 spring. Miss Kendi was in October 2020. Yeah, so we invited college professors from Bahama, Turkey, and Japan. They are actually our friends, and talked about it's a joint session with the instructional tech committee, and we talk about how their remote learning and teaching were going and have been. And they were really from those countries, and the difficulty was the time difference. Like my friend from Japan needed to be on Zoom at 3 a.m. in her time, but it was kind of interesting. Yeah, 3 a.m. Actually, okay, 15 minutes. Sorry.
That's okay, no worries. Can go ahead.
Yeah, I'll be quick. So, yeah. So it's another very important and then timely critical issue that was the Asian hate crime during the pandemic. So as a response, we invited the renowned scholar, Dr. Soyeon An, for the session to talk about this issue. Originally, it was just a virtual event to, for the School of Education, but as a Dean's support, we expanded this, the event to the whole university and outside. So 100 people, I think more than that, people came to the session and they learned about the anti-Asian violence amid the COVID-19 pandemic within the long history of anti-Asian racism in US history and for education. So yeah, we learned a lot about this,
Yeah.
the timely issue.
And then the last guest, I would say PD or last lecture was a curriculum coordinator from one of the international schools at New Jersey in Princeton, who talked about international baccalaureate program for our teacher candidates as well as for us, so that we can just make some appropriate decisions in our teacher education opportunities that we provide for our teacher candidates in our school. And then go ahead.
There is a course that was created by me that is study abroad, or it's educational and cultural experiences in, and then the shelf can be lifted to different countries. And so as the International Ed Committee was developing, we brought this under our wing, and we decided to promote this course because we wanted as many faculty to be involved in teaching abroad. It's a Monmouth-led teaching abroad experience. And so it's a little bit different than study abroad. And so this committee provided professional development, talked with faculty across our school about potential locations. The committee discussed because we wanted to be targeted about where we were and rotating the process of going to different countries. We also created an application to identify interested faculty, so that way we could host the faculty abroad course with someone who had experience, and then also someone who had never had experience to mentor them. So then the following year, maybe they would be willing to host the course abroad. So we vetted those applications, identified faculty. Then we also supported and mentored them in applying to the university, because that whole process is a lot to go through the actual study abroad process at the university. You have to do it some years ahead. We really created the documents and support. Sometimes we're still in the process of doing this to help support faculty moving forward, so that way it's a little bit more seamless as possible. We collaborate with the Global Ed office in designing the marketing, the website, advertising. Our committee supports that to help support the faculty that are going to teach this course. We also created a shadowing grant and petitioned our dean and the Global Ed office for support to have a faculty shadow. What we were finding is that a lot of faculty weren't willing to participate in teaching abroad because either they hadn't been abroad or they had been abroad but never overseeing students, and they just didn't feel comfortable yet. So we actually so far have supported one faculty in that shadowing process, and our committee created the application, worked with the dean's office to provide that opportunity. Our committee also advertises and promotes this course, depending on where it's going and who's teaching it, to help with student enrollment. And then after, the students as part of the course are all required to do a presentation at the School of Ed faculty meeting. With certain students are invited to attend, and they kind of talk about how they developed global teaching and their global competency through this course and their experience.
Okay, so I know we don't have much time, so what I'm going to just highlight as the last point for our session is, like, basically overall we try to focus on like how we can develop both teacher candidates and our faculty members global competency throughout the training or the professional development that we can provide during the School of Education meetings and such. And those are the 4 key ideas that we just targeted, as you can see. And then we just brought these kind of presentations to the School of Education meeting and then shared some single story. This is very common for anybody who has some international background. Every and each one of us can just come up with those kind of single stories. And then we wanted to our colleagues to be aware of those kind of stuff and then just be aware of themselves, like be conscious about that one. So I don't want to just spend more time with those things. And also there's a question. This appeared in the PISA test, international test. So that's a kind of requirement or expectation for any global student nowadays for K-12. I'm just going to leave these 3 questions for us, 3 of us, like 3 papers that we can discuss at the end during the Q&A. So how could we facilitate college students investigate the world beyond their immediate environment? Do you have similar global education focused experience in your school? What other suggestions do you have so that we can condense our work in the future? Thank you.
Those fast.
I know.
Okay, we're the last. Team.
Yeah.
And project is right up here. We worked within, areas within our business school in particular for this. This is Dr. Tjeerd Boonman, and I'm Michaeline Skiba. We co-authored this paper, but one of my other colleagues, Dr. Alysson, to whom I'm going to refer when I speak, you'll find out more, okay?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thanks for being here. We are both in the Societal Impact Committee. This is where it all started. So in the business school, we are one of an important part of for our institution is to get accredited in the AACSB. And it's not our main goal, obviously, but it helps us to guide ourselves. And the AACSB every 5 years has got like a new topic that they want to emphasize to move all the business schools in one direction. And they chose recently societal impact. And that's why in the business schools, we are now not only here, but all over the world, we're all working on that because business schools have a more responsibility than just teaching our students how to make money. And, you know, it goes a lot further than that. Not only the students ask us for a wider perspective, but also society is asking for that. Companies, even for profit companies, are much more emphasizing that. So we've been working on that since 2021. Mickey has been in that committee too. Joe has been in that committee. Actually, the first year we were like 12 members, and we wanted to have a lot of people getting involved there to get it going off. So a little bit of a setting. I know a lot of you are from Monmouth, but not everybody. So private university, non-urban setting, 5,000 undergrads, 1,000 graduate students, 200 full-time faculty. In the business school where we are working, which is this building and the building next door, there are 1,200 undergrad students, 200 MBA, and we are 40 full-time faculty. So as I mentioned, AACSB is our accreditor for business schools, a very important one for us. And being in there is like being in the major league. So we want to stay there and we want to stay on top of the crowd. And so we started with a task force with, as I said, with a group of 12 professors from all different fields. We have 4 areas in the business school. Every area had at least 2 persons involved. And the idea was to generate like a critical mass so that everybody would be aware of the importance and also start looking into ways to contribute there. Since 2022, it's become a committee. It's a bit smaller now. We just move on, but yeah, it's on the map. I was very jealous of the previous presentation with all the beautiful pictures. This is my most exotic thing I can think of. This is a different color, but so we decided to focus on goal number 4, which is yeah, I mean the most natural for I think for an education system like we are. But at the same time, we're obviously also thinking about other field. So, providing high quality education, we shown before, and we're doing that through 3 different dimensions: scholarly contributions, like research, curriculum, through the adjusting a little bit the study plan for the students, adding some courses, and the last one here is to have more contacts and engagement with the local community here. What we do every year, we make a survey amongst the faculty, and about 70% of the faculty response, which is a good response, and everybody writes down what they have done in the last year that could qualify as societal impact. And we found out there, I'm not going to show you the results, but we found out that the majority is doing activities that have an impact on the local community. And I selected here 2, or we selected here 2, one that I'm more involved with and one that Nikki is more involved with. So the one that I'm involved with is an example of that is touching a couple of things at the same time. And being a small business school with not a big budget, we cannot focus, we cannot do everything. So we want to do small things, but that have a connection and that can have more than one goal. So this synergy, this multidisciplinarity is something that we're looking for. And in this research project, we're working together. The topic is about flooding and real estate prices in Monmouth County region. And with this, we attack both the socioeconomic and the environmental impact. It's in the local community, and in this local community here in this region, there are very rich areas like Lumsden, and well, actually a lot more than just that, but just the one I can think of now, and also some areas with where the socioeconomic level is very low, and they're sometimes like a few miles apart, like Asbury Park and Neptune City is. They touch each other, but the socioeconomic level is very different. We also are looking into how flooding risk is affecting real estate prices in those different socioeconomic areas. So we're working with people from School of Science, Real Estate Institute, Business School, that the graduate student working this project in the summer. And the idea is to get out from this project more than one product. So our goals are, first of all, scholarly. We're all interested in getting publications. It's part of the aggregation, well, part of the scholar obligation, I would say, and also our passion, obviously, to get published. And the second one, and that is a very important one too, to share our results with the local community, because we want to have an impact on the community. It's not just to get another publication out there. That's nice, but it should also have an impact. So once we have this study ready and we want to present it here in the local community, we want to present it in the local news, and get it out with the community. So this is dimension 1 and 3, scholar and community. I'm moving the floor, giving the floor to Mickey.
For the rest, well, I'll cover it, yes.
Can I what?
Is there the next slide?
I think next slide is conclusion.
That's what I was working on with 2 people in the room. Actually more. The Management Matters panels. What we did, and I worked very closely with Dr. Palazzolo, who's sitting right here. So afterwards, if you want to know more, you can talk with him too. What we did, and this was in the fall of 2019, we coordinated a set of 3 panels, each of which had 3 alums. Most of the alums were younger, right a few years out of Monmouth. Okay, they graduated Monmouth. Some graduated with 2 degrees, undergrad and graduate and MBA. How did we recruit these people? Well, the 2 of us have extensive connections. Mine are mostly on LinkedIn. I started collecting student connections on there years ago. I have over 500. Now that's not a lot by business people's standards, but most of those are students I taught and I wanted to keep in touch with. Dr. Palazzolo has connections through various venues, including a large fraternity, correct? So we pooled our resources. Each of the 3 panels had 3 panelists. They all came from various functional disciplines. To make it a variety. I had about a dozen people, honestly, who worked behind the scenes on electronic invitations, food service stuff. Picture this, downstairs in the auditorium downstairs, 115 was where we held the panels. Okay, and the panelists, I knew them well, we knew them well. We met with them way ahead of time to carve out the kinds of things that we wanted them to talk about. And this is what made it unique. They didn't really talk about careers per se. What they talked about were all of the things that they don't necessarily learn in college, here at Monmouth or anywhere. You know, a lot of things related to emotional intelligence, feeling confident, you know, getting involved in finding a mentor in their businesses. I teach ethics here, and one of the things that I focus on when we talk about careers and of course is organizational culture. You know, what kind of a culture do you want to work in? Ask the right questions before you walk through the door, you know, to find out where you'll fit in best. And also the political navigation, finding a mentor informally or formally in those companies that you go to work for. So those are the topics. The panelists were riveting. We created questions after each panelist talked about what they do, how they do what they do. And we had questions for all of them. So that they were icebreaker questions, okay? To get, you know, the students interested in asking their own, and they did. This is how we set it up for all 3 of those panels in person. What made them successful? Word of mouth, buzz. We had invitations, not, you know, incessantly, but various invitations throughout, you know, reminders. Extra credit for students who showed up, and we kept tabs on attendance. Oh, and food. That's a big draw with students anywhere. I don't care if it's here or anywhere. And it was nice to have all of that, you know, in place. That was the panels, Management Matters panels. The AIM series, here's what happened. We did 3 panels in the fall of 2019. And then early in the following spring, we had another panel. I had recruited all the panelists for the next one. And then the shutdown happened. So it was over for a while. However, Dr. Palazzolo resumed this whole theme with what he called the Alumni in Management series. And those were online, offered online, very personalized with one alum, okay, on a Zoom. Again, attendance was taken, extra credit was given according to whoever faculty decided to do. It's up to faculty. And they ran all the way through this mid-April, this past mid-April. So I'm hoping that we or other people in our department will continue some version of one of these. Now, I hope you can see the advantages and disadvantages of both types. It's a bit more expensive to do live interactive panels, you know, like we started with. There were 3 people. There's something about being in person that makes things good, but they're a little bit expensive and time consuming. The AIM series is ideal because you could do it anywhere. by Zoom, as long as you have that connection. And or personalized, to be, done that way. What happens is, we had a great amount of interest. The first panel was about close to 60 students showed up. And then the third panel, we almost filled the Ziggy Auditorium downstairs, 115. So we were doing something right. I do know for a fact that at least one student landed her first professional job because she informally networked with one of the first panelists. So there may be others. I still keep in touch with the panelists we did use for these. They loved doing it. They wanted to give back. Faculty came to several. Michael Chatalis, you brought your whole class to them and built curriculum around some of the topics. So that's what we did. And I hope that we resume in some fashion, what we've done. And that was in touch both the internal community. Other schools can do this. You want to know how to do it? Ask me. I have my business cards here. If you can't discuss it here, contact me. I can send you the paper that Dr. Palazzolo and I wrote for AACSB Insights, and we have the paper for this symposium too. Would you like to wrap it up?
Yeah, thanks, Nikki.
You have 1 minute.
Thank you. So being a small school, we're looking for synergies with one activity, getting more people involved, more faculty, more students involved, and also the community. We have tried to convince people in the business school that societal impact is an important part. Students the new generation of students is different than previous generation of students. Of course, there's still a lot of students that are just there for the money, but there's also a large cohort that wants a little bit more out of it, and they're demanding that from us. So there's a demand for it. The local community and their needs, as I mentioned here, in the local community, but in general, I think the American public is more critical about the tuition that we have to pay for the schools. So we want that schools do more for society too, and another part that is a trend in research is that there's a tendency to go to more disciplinary research, thinking more out of the box. And this gives us a chance, being a small school, working together with different faculty from different areas, can enrich our research too. And when the School of Science, like literally 100 yards away from us, it's we walk into each other all the time. So a small university makes that we can find this multidisciplinary research easier than maybe in a very large school. And the other part is that we're working on, for example, with this research project, that we also want to have an impact on the community outside the school. In this case, the real estate sector. I think that's it. So, thanks very much.
We have 10 minutes left. So it's up to you how you want to do it. You can ask questions for the whole room. Like I said, I have business cards for those of you who want one from the papers that I alluded to. Not just the one for here, but the one that Dr. Palazzolo and I wrote about the panels and the AIM series in much bigger detail than I've given you here. So, Kathryn, you had a question.
I have a question for the white coat group, for the faculty. Are you going to make next year's class do the research project, or are you just going to have a white coat ceremony?
We're going to make them do the research project. We're not going to have the final vote until we're actually going to give them the opportunity to act. Because the project itself did not give them the opportunity to act, then that critical action piece wasn't able to be measured. So we're going to continue with the same thread, except we're going to do it in the beginning of their fall semester, and then we're going to give them the opportunity to act through their spring semester, and then we're going to do the final vote after those 2 full semesters. That gives them the opportunity to act on what they were feeling based on, and it gives them a longer opportunity to reflect on the information that they've had. And then we still have plenty of time to plan it before the December meet for the white coat ceremony. So I think we're just going to lengthen the project so that they have all of this motivation is not wasted. And that it's fresh in their mind that these things maybe something that they can.
Thank you.
Short answer, yes.
Yes. I have a question for my colleagues in the School of Education. So I am really thrilled to see your presentation, to see you highlight all that this committee's done. And I've been a part of many of those activities. I guess what I'm wondering is what you see the committee doing in future years. Now that, we're at a certain place, so where are we headed?
Want to just actually quote from the last presentation, you guys also have a kind of committee, and then like it rang the bell for me is like have a close up with the faculty members and also teacher candidates to some sort of research that we can embed within, and then like survey them pre and post or something like that, and bring it more, because it's not only among us, it should be just spread out to the rest of the School of Education in a way that we can check things out and also publish maybe from it as well. I like that kind of mindset there, so we can just imitate the thing with our School of Education.
Yeah, you're very welcome to share our experiences with that. Yeah, I mean, more cooperation, better.
Yeah, definitely.
And Nikki, I wanted to ask you, so as the societal impact agenda moves forward, are there private businesses that are thinking of signing up with us and the Urban Coast Institute, thinking about sustainable hospitality? Tourism is back in a big way. My research on place branding, so I see a lot of that in place branding conference. There are many hotels around here.
Yeah.
Hospitality businesses. I don't know. That's just one example.
Yeah, no, I think they're very valuable. And so far, we as a committee here more than anything coordinating what is happening. And the individual projects are coming more from the faculty themselves. So, but I think every time it becomes clear that the school is appreciating this kind of activities very much. So I think there will be kind of motivation for you or others to reach out to those industries and see, okay, we are working on societal impact. We also have very good marketing people. Why don't we do something together? Maybe funding. Yeah, that's definitely a path forward. Yeah, and I think at the moment that private companies see that we are serious about societal impact. We have some people that have done publications on it and done research on it. Then they will take it more serious and they will collaborate with us. So yeah, that's the long-term goal. Definitely. We just started that, so give us a bit of time, but it's yeah, a long-term goal. Yeah, thank you.
That it? No other questions? Feel free to, network with one another here or outside. Lunch starts at noon. We're actually 2 minutes so early.